Hey guys, Reaper here. This is going to be our next video segment. I actually ordered brand new Barnett throttle and idle cables for the 2016 fatbob. Here is the throttle cable. We have LA choppers on there right now, and I honestly couldn't get it to adjust properly as well as it should. It comes with a little sticker sheet, and these honestly seem like a pretty good quality. I also personally have an LA choppers clutch cable, and it's currently leaking right now. So I don't know if I honestly would suggest it. Each one of these little cable packages comes with its own cable lubricant little packets. I personally still like to use Inox just because I've used it for so long and I know it's a really good quality product, and it's also liquid, so it goes down to the actual cable sheathing itself compared to this kind of paste stuff. All right, I think we're ready, so let's head on over to the shop. All right, so here we are at the shop. I always suggest honestly raising up your tank in the rear just because it'll make everything and access and just being able to see the cables and get to the housing is just a lot more easier, especially when you're kind of routing them through the front of the tank too. Here, I'm going to start prepping the cables with the cable lubricant that came with it because unfortunately I forgot my Inox. Honestly, I'm probably going to end up using it later, but this is what the package looks like. Honestly, comes with a decent amount, but it's more of like a paste kind of type, where versus the Inox is more of a liquid with like an injector needle that it comes with. Really convenient, really useful. Now I'm getting this paste out, and I'm going to put a dab on the actual cable itself. I fully collapsed the cable, and then I pulled some of the cable out. This is what it looks like. It kind of looks like glue. So I'm assuming with heat, it's gonna probably melt a little bit and go reach all the way at the end of the cable. Honestly, I don't think it comes with enough, but I figured I'd give it a try. Alright, so since I have my throttle cable all nice and looped and ready now, I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping up the idle cable. Got it out of the box, and for those of you wondering where you can find your actual cable size, you just look up on J&P Cycles, put your year, make, and model of the bike, and it should be able to tell you if that cable fits or not. I'm getting ready now to raise up the tank, so I'm gonna have to disconnect the fuel line. I grabbed a little bit of lube just to try and spray where they connect to try to protect the O-rings as much as possible. I'm wanting to actually put this bolt back in. I realize it makes it a lot easier when you're disconnecting it, so all you gotta do is push up the top and you should be able to pull out the bottom. It should come out pretty easily. So now that I have disconnected my fuel line, the tank was all ready to be propped up. I got a soft flow hammer. Honestly, you can use whatever hammer you like, or I guess any object. I've just always used hammers just because they just sit nicely on the frame to kind of hold the tank up. Now I'm getting a fresh pair of gloves on. I'm getting the throttle cable now and getting some anti-seize. I'm going to want to fully open up the adjuster completely just so I can get a pretty good amount on the threads. I usually like to use the copper one. I found that just does the best job at what it's meant to. Kind of protects the threads from corrosion, rust, and all that. I just dab a little bit on my finger from the glove and spread it across the threads as evenly as possible. You don't want to cake it too much, just a light layer is fine. I usually collapse it fully to kind of run it through the threads at least once. At this point, you don't really need gloves on anymore. I kind of prefer working without gloves. Just works out better for me. Once you fully collapse the cable, you'll run it through all the threads, and then I'm just going to wipe off the excess that kind of just bulges out. I just like to kind of try to maintain things clean. I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. Okay, now I'm going to grab the brand new ferrule that came with the cable itself. It's really nice. I'm going to show you guys a trick, or however you want to call it, orientation, whatever. One of my old bosses, masters, kind of showed me. Makes it just super easy. I don't know why they fucking complicate things so much in school, but I just pulled out the cable a little bit, and I'm gonna want to orient, and you're gonna want to make the bigger hole at the top, the smaller hole at the bottom, and just kind of put it sideways onto the cable itself, so it just kind of end up sitting once you raise it up. Obviously, you're going to want to do this in the actual sleeve itself. I was just showing you ahead of time, just to kind of make things easier visually for you guys. Now I'm fishing it here through the bottom. It's a little home. Kind of just need to stretch out the cable a little bit, and you're just going to want to press it up there. You might just need a little bit of nudge, but it should fit. And then we're going to do that technique that I just showed you. While it's sticking up, make sure the bigger hole is at the top, little ones at the bottom, and you're going to be able to slide it into it and then up, so it kind of locks down on itself. And personally, whenever I put these cables on, I always like to make sure that that slit, one side is solid, one side is a slit, to face you, because in case you need to move the cable, just makes it easier to use a flathead. Once you route it through, just make sure that it has this clip. I'm not really actually sure what all the bikes have it, probably all the cables, but you want to make sure that you route it through that little slot to hold it. If you don't have a clip, like he has his broken, you know, the ones that give you the ability to fish a zip tie through it. I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to show you which housing this goes into and how exactly it goes into it. So I got my throttle cable here. It's going to need to go to the farthest one, the one that gets actually pulled. So I'm going to put it in the actual housing in the back, trying to get a good view of it. You're going to want to fish it through. It'll go easily in. If not, you can also go like pull the cable out a little bit and then just put it through the side, just like I'm showing you now. And then you're going to want to seat it all the way in the hole. And then once you do that, you have to get it with your fingers or pick or whatever you want from the back. And if you really need to get a little bit of slack, you can pull the cable or push it, whichever it may be that you need, depending on whatever it is. Honestly, having just a little bit of a hard time doing this with one hand as I'm holding the phone with the other. Some people prop this open, the throttle plate, just to get it as close as to the cable as possible. Alright, now what I'm going to do now is show you how to properly adjust your throttle cable. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, so this is how you do it. So you see how I'm coming in a full contact with technically what it's called the cam stop. This is what you're going to want to do as you hold your throttle at full lock and making sure that the throttle plate is also completely wide open. You definitely don't want to restrict your actual degrees. Now what you see me doing here is I'm just showing you guys an example of what a bad or improper adjustment looks like. It's actually pretty common. People don't really understand that it's supposed to completely touch the cam stop. I'm going to show you just a little quick, just about the indentation that I was talking about that you're going to want to make sure your cable runs through. All right, now I'm just going to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to be doing my final adjustments and just making sure I got not too much slack in the cable. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for the idle cable. Honestly, it's the exact same thing, except just the other slot, and I'm going to come back whenever I have another tip. All right, now we're going to be going over installing it in the actual grip. So I'm showing you guys a pick. I kind of like to use a pick sometimes just to make it easier to kind of grab that cable over, because once it's actually sitting in the housing, you'll know that sometimes you have a hard time actually sitting in the cable where it's supposed to be running through. You can also use like a straight pick or whatever that like kind of points. It's really small to be able to do it, but while you're doing this, make sure that whatever you use, you're not going into the actual cable itself. You don't want to tear or start fraying it ahead of time. Now I'm just putting a little zip tie to just kind of hold the cables just close together. Now remember when you're fishing it through, I put the throttle cable at the bottom and the idle on top, stacked on top of each other. And remember again to fish it through that little clamp that the throttle is sitting in, and you can lock it down then. All right, so this is like about, I guess, the only really important part when it comes to the idle cable. You want to make sure that that little spring that comes at the end is sitting in the actual housing itself, or by technical term, the cable guide. Because it's not going to go all the way through. It's just going to sit at the bottom of it, but I'm pretty sure that's what kind of helps it kind of stay locked in place. Honestly, I'm really surprised I was able to get this in with one hand. All right, now we're going to make sure to tighten down that zip tie. Do not forget about that, please. Please do not leave your cables close to your heads or anything like that, and leave all this slack for no fucking reason. Okay, now we're going to be going over how to properly adjust your idle cable, which is always at full right lock. Part of it is you always want to make sure that nothing gets kinked or caught on anything from side to side. Now your idle cable is what you use to adjust your free play. Here I'm showing you just a little bit of back and forth, kind of how much exact slack and free play I have right now in the grip. You're going to want it like about 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit of free play. Now when you get to the 1/8 of an inch, just make sure you just lock it down and it still slaps back. Now I'm just making sure that the cables at the top are completely lubed as well. Now, once I've done all my final checks, it's time to put everything back together. Alright, so I think that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll let this just play through because I'm so tired of talking. But thanks for watching.
Just doing final checks. That's beautiful.